I so appreciate your tech savviness, Tim.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to have you, friends. This is our weekly webinar, Independent School Leaders Forum. And with me is my colleague, Dr. Lindsay Pollock, who is the provost of Sarasota University. We know that this week a lot of people are on vacation. I see a few friends that are with us already. I encourage you to remember the forum is intended to be a conversation, not a lecture. So please feel free to unmute and jump in anytime. Also, please feel free to turn on your camera so we can actually see you as well as hear you. So, without any further ado, Lindsay, what do you got planned for us this week?
Well, Tim, I thought it might be fun for the group to take a little time and think about collectively some case studies. The case studies that I've written for us to talk about today are a conglomeration of stories that I've heard from other school leaders. And some of them are stories that I'm sharing that were based on my lived experience as a school leader. And so I'd love to hear from the folks who are here today, their ideas and strategies, because we're all better together and we generate even more ideas than we might on our own. So, are you able to see the PowerPoint presentation, Tim?
Yeah.
Perfect. So just a disclaimer about any and all of these case studies, the names of individuals, exact locations, and specific schools or districts have been replaced with pseudonyms or generalized data. Any identifying details have been altered to protect the anonymity of the participants. So we're just these are stories and meant to really elicit some conversations about what would you do, what would you have done in these situations, and how we might think about potential risks or situations that we might encounter at our schools in the future, and how we can best prepare for these. So we'll move right to one of our first case studies, and I've labeled these with sort of the areas that school leaders work with. So here's the first case study for us today. This is regarding human resources. One of your staff's favorite hangouts after work on Fridays is the Tipsy Turvy around the corner from your school. You've just returned to your office on Monday morning to check your voice messages. The first one you hear is a message from Friday night. The owner of the Tipsy Turvy says, "Good morning, Principal Smith. I need to let you know that a bunch of your teachers were here celebrating tonight. I know they are from your school because they were all wearing Superstar Academy t-shirts. They got pretty loud and we finally had to ask them to leave because they kept heckling the live singer we had on stage. Please let them know they are not welcome back. By the way, we can't host your holiday program here either. What do you do?"
I love it. We congratulate the teachers for having such a good time. Okay, so they've gone out and embarrassed the school. What would you all do?
Any ideas? How are you going to handle this?
Hi, everyone. That is a
Hi,
really
Hi, Soika.
Soika.
funny case study. I can definitely see it happening. um, I'm just wondering, I think an email, first of all, just start things off. I think an email reminding staff about what we have in our, hopefully in our code of conduct, our school uh, code of conduct around, actually wearing school paraphernalia when you are out in the public and representing the school. So that would be my first. I don't know if that would be my first step, but it definitely would be something I would go to.
Great idea. Yes, and really the best defense is a good offense, right? So having that, as you said, in your staff handbook, making sure that it's clear even from hiring, right? Like this is how we behave when when we're out in public and we're repping the school, we've got our t-shirt on, and really that is a blurry line between who we are as individuals and then who we are when we're out in public and representing the school. Absolutely. I see Lisa's got her camera on. Lisa, would you like to weigh in on the our dilemma for the day, our case study? Thank you, Soika. Bill, do you have any ideas for us? I know you.
I always have
Oh,
I always have ideas.
Rupali, I think has jumped in.
It looks like Bill's about to talk
Oh,
first. Hi,
sorry.
Bill.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you, Bill.
You can't hear me?
No, I can hear
Yeah,
you
we hear you
now.
now.
I
Oh,
Yeah.
didn't
good.
hear you before. My apologies.
Well, I use a process I learned from Bob Chadwick, and first of all, you try to get the people who were there in the room. If it is most of the staff, then you call a special meeting about how our behavior has now transmitted into the community. And so, excuse me?
I think
No,
we had
go
a
ahead.
little bit of an echo for a minute.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Um, and first thing I do is, so what are the issues? The issues are how we're perceived on the community, and it's no different than if our kids went out and made an issue. And number one, number two, is are there some amends? Do we have to make some amends
Mm.
and try to at least apologize? I always use the three A's. First of all, admit it, accept it, and then apologize and commit to making make it different, take action to make it different. Then I would lead the conversation about what's the worst possible outcome if we don't address this. And then after we get, the bloodletting and the venting, so what's the best possible outcome? What can we do? What's our goal? And that means make amends. How are we gonna who are going to be the monitors that monitor our own behavior so that we are doing some internal reflection as well as reflecting on what this does to the school.
Mm-hmm.
What actions are we going to take? Do we have to go out to topsy-turvy? Is there who's gonna do that? What do we need to do to build collaboration inside? And then how will we know? What will be the evidence that we're getting better in reaching out? It could be we organize leaf raking for the senior citizens or whatever it is, but how do we take some positive steps? So,
Thank you, Bill.
Rupali.
Yeah, thank you. This is very interesting because if I would wake up to an email like that on Monday morning, I am going to be very worried. And first, I like to take care of myself before I can jump in to address the staff or the crisis. So I always ask myself, what is the size of this crisis? And is it a small, medium, or large? And how long will this crisis last? So if it's going to be something, all right, I can fix this within a week's period. I can fix it. This is going to take a few more months, or it's a long term crisis, right? And that immediately allows me to regulate my immediate reaction to it. So once I regulate myself, I can then talk to the staff. I like what Bill said. I'll piggyback on some of the things he said. Um, I I like to connect with the people who were there and would talk to them to understand what was going on from their perspective, much like we would do for conflict resolution. And then I would invite the owner to the school and have the adults talk to each other because they are all adults and they can resolve this. And um, piggybacking on what Bill said, what is the outcome and what steps can we take to help mitigate this? And then where the owner has said, you're not welcome to do your holiday parties again, we can also talk about, how businesses have to navigate a business owner to another business owner, to how do you navigate these situations, and never say never. I believe in that. And so if there is a way that I perhaps have had a relationship, long-term relationship with this owner, I would lean on that and bring in um, that relationship with my network into it to ease this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I wonder if anyone would think it was important to gather the people who were there together and just let them know that you received this message and ask them to tell you more. What happened from your perspective and what should we do about this?
I
I
think that's
think
what Ollie was saying in the beginning. That's a meeting that she would have with her staff, which I really appreciate that.
Yeah, there's always a chance that the owner is, being very hot-headed, and the staff may or may not have been as outrageous as you're describing. Obviously, that person's perspective is real for them, but I certainly wouldn't want to automatically assume that our staff had behaved in the way that's described. I mean, to me, we want to avoid having them feel like naughty children and try to get them involved. Just as if we got a report that a group of our students had done something inappropriate out in the community, we wouldn't want to just come in and rip them a new one. We'd want to have a conversation together to say, hey, what's happening here? I got this message. What happened? Tell me more.
Great point.
Now, I see Nandita is pointing out that, we have some responsibility, and you're absolutely right. I mean, no matter whether the experience from the teacher's point of view is consistent with the owner's or not, the owner is basically raising a real level of concern. So clearly we have some peacemaking to do one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's try. Thank you, everyone, for participating in our conversation, and we'll go on to the next one. What? All right, so here's a budgeting question for you. You've been looking through your payroll records and noticed that a number of your hourly employees are forgetting to sign in and out each day. Your secretary has been entering their hours, assuming they are present every day and working their full shift. When you compare that to the substitute hours that are coming out of your account, it appears you've been paying people who took a day off and haven't deducted that absence from their leave balance. Looking through the records, it seems like this has been going on for at least the past 2 months. What do you do?
Eerie silence.
so.
I think I'm the newest school leader with the least experience. So I'm always like the first, I don't mind being the first one to jump in. And I love how my colleagues are coming in with a more refined and nuanced response. But like just hearing that, I'm having a conversation with my operations management person around our procedures and documenting staff absences and kind of, looking at our procedures that we have in place and trying to make sure that we tighten those up. That actually, something similar happened to me. We had a system where staff had to go in to ADP and they had to, when they're going to have an absence, log in their absence. And so each time they called out, I was responsible for responding to them. And I was like, please make sure that you update in ADP. But I had no way of knowing if they were, actually, if it was still aligned or if they were close. Mm-hmm. And so I had to actually talk to HR and find out, like, how do I go into the system and so that I could check that. I'm in a school where I was holding everything, but hopefully you have someone else that can do that and you can kind of move that work. That's just off the top of my mind.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah. And this case study is multi-layered. So there are a number of moving parts in this situation. What do y'all think? Has any? Yes, Bill.
Well, I've actually had to do this several times as a principal. And the one that comes to mind is, first of all, you make sure you can document when they've come in and left. So I went to the cameras where the person came in and found out that they're coming in like an hour and a half late and getting, full salary. I came in after the superintendent removed the principal. So I sat
Mhm.
down with the person and said, here's what the data says. How do you react? Well, the last principal was okay with me doing this. He ain't here.
Yes. Yeah. Things change.
The game has changed. This is your warning. Do it
Yeah.
again, I'll write you up. And I wrote him up and I ended up having to fire him.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes.
But at
So
that point, it's their
we have
choice.
thank you, Bill. We have Nandita in the chat who says, this happens at my school quite often. I joke and let them know that if the hourly forms are not filled out daily, they miss getting paid. And my supervisor is told not to fill out for them. So
Well,
having those procedures in place is
yeah.
important, and communicating those clearly with the expectation is also very important. I'm sorry, Tim, what were you going to say?
I was also going to say that I think it's also very important to remind the staff that signing in and out is critical for more reasons than just payroll. So payroll
Mm,
has to do with a legal responsibility that we have to the state government to accurately pay people for time they're there. And that's absolutely true. And as Bill said, not doing that is, if ultimately necessary, grounds for dismissal. But the other thing is safety. If you have an
that's
active
right.
shooter, a hurricane, a flood, or
A fire
fire,
drill,
you
you
got to
need to
know
evacuate the building. Yeah,
who's in the building.
that's
And of
right.
course, it also has to do with is the coverage of these children. I have personally gone into a school and discovered that a group of children was by themselves because the teacher was late, and no one knew that the kids were in the class by themselves.
That's right. Tim, one of the procedures we had in place was, we had a physical sign-in book, and it was in the front office for precisely the reason that you described. I had an AP who would stand at the book and greet people. We made it kind of a fun activity. Sometimes we had little stickers or prizes or a candy, something, just to say, hey, good morning, welcome. And when we got close to the start time, the AP could quickly look at the book if there was anybody, maybe someone stuck in traffic, they had a flat tire, maybe their phone's dead now and they can't call us, but we could look down those pages and see exactly where we might need coverage and make sure that every class had an adult on duty when the kids were there. Because to your point, the safety of the children is tantamount. That's our really the number one concern.
I'll
See,
chime in with
Nandita,
a couple of things. One is that whatever you permit, you promote. And so if you let it go, some of your best people are saying, what difference does it make? Catherine's not here every day, whatever. At the same time, there are emergencies that come up, like you mentioned, flat tire or whatever. Um, at the same time, if you don't address it from a leadership standpoint, you're sending the message that you don't care and you're ignoring it. And
Mhm.
that is not a good message to send to the best teachers you got who are working their tail off. So the other thing I would mention is nothing frosted me more as a teacher to sit there and then have the principal go, some of you are coming late. No, everybody in the place knows who's coming late. Talk to
That's right.
them.
Yes, that's right. Address the situation directly with the people who need to hear the message, most importantly. You're absolutely right. And Nandita also says here in Ontario, ratios are absolutely paramount. That's another thing to think about with making sure that folks are present. Those ratios, do we have enough adults in the room to make sure that we're meeting ratio? And the other aspect in this case study is that you've got to monitor your budget. So if you're paying people for their time, and the leave hours are not being deducted, you're going to keep paying substitutes over and over again, and that leave balance isn't changing for the employees. So you're going to spend a lot more money out of your budget. So having those systems in place, and at a private school that I ran, Nandita points out that it can be, you can be a little bit silly about it, and at the end of the day, we would tell folks, if you haven't signed in and out, if you're missing a day, we close the books at the end of the day. So we can't guarantee you're going to be paid if you haven't signed in and out. Of course, we always paid folks, but um, that can help to be a motivator for folks. If you're saying, hey, I can't guarantee that if at the end of the week there's nothing there, I can't put hours in for you if you haven't signed in and out. So I understand sometimes people forget, but as soon as you realize you've forgotten, you've got to come and fill that timesheet out. It's really important. And then making sure that those leave requests are submitted. So having those procedures in place and following through, like Bill said, whatever you permit, um, it's going to persist and it will be an ongoing problem. Tim, did you have anything else to add to this one?
Just a related thing. I mean, this is not the same as the staff signing in and out, but many schools talk about the fact that parents don't remember to follow the sign in or sign out procedure that
Yes,
they're responsible for. That can be a real problem. Nothing worse
like,
than getting an email at 6:45 at night saying that little Sophie seems to still be in the building. She hasn't been
right.
signed out.
Oh gosh. And Soraya added, she has a binder with every teacher's name, each for the whole month. When all arrived and everyone is in their respective room, she took the attendance. If she had to move any staff until the teacher arrived, she would use the outdoor teacher or bathroom floater, etc., to make sure the ratio is right. Thank you, Soraya. That's a great strategy too. All right, let's look at this next one. Human resources. You just sat down at your desk to try to grab a bite to eat for lunch. Your office is on the other side of the teacher workroom where many of your staff members have lunch. The walls are paper thin, and the connected air vent makes the sound amplified so everyone can hear what's going on in the other room. As you take the first bite of your noodle ramen soup and start scrolling through emails, you hear a staff member say, "That kid is driving me crazy. He acts just like his dad, always barging in and demanding that I talk to him first. They're so entitled it makes me sick. I can't seem to do anything to make them happy. I wish they would just take their kids and go somewhere else. I don't understand how they keep getting away with all their nonsense." What do you do? I'm sure this has never happened to anyone here today, but what would you do if you were at this fictional school? What are the things that you identify in this case study that might be concerns? There's a number of things here that might need to be addressed.
Eerie silence.
Nandita said she would like to talk to that staff member privately.
Nandita, when you talk to that person privately, which by the way, I think is a very good idea, um, what, how do you approach it?
Hi, I've got my camera on now.
Hi, Nandita.
I think the first thing, there's a lot of negativity in the way she's talking or he's talking. And that just makes me think how, if that is what's happening behind the scene, how must she be dealing with the child in the moment?
Mm-hmm.
And so, uh, because we know children feed off each other's energies and the adults' energy. So that's not a very healthy situation. Right. So I would really like to know what it is that makes her so crazy and gets her so angry, or him. And then try to, help in terms of some professional development, some Montessori books, some Montessori's, quotes that might help get the person back, into their spiritual being and see the child for who he or she is, instead of just passing these comments, because they can really be detrimental to the own person as well as to the community as a whole. It can have a domino effect. You have others talking about it, and then suddenly you have this whole negative dark cloud hanging over. So I guess, yeah,
It,
that's what I would do.
is it possible that we could have a family and a child who are really that unkind and impolite and destructive to the harmony of the school?
Uh, we could. I mean, I don't know. It depends on how we look at it. Of course, if they're not following the school's, code of conduct, that's a different situation.
Mhm.
But from what I can read here, I think it just might be that, there are some needy parents, but that's not necessarily that they're breaking any codes.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of those parents and I call them special needs because they want a lot of information. They want to feel that they're part of the everyday, and that's okay. It's fine. I mean, that's their little treasure we are handling every day, right?
Right.
So, I mean, as long as it doesn't hurt me, I ask myself, like, how is it bothering me? Or
Mm-hmm.
does it bother me? And then that's what I would like the staff to do too. Choose your battles. If it's not bothering you to answer, just answer. If you cannot answer, just don't answer. But don't make an opinion of the family unless they've really done something major to cross that, line, that boundary.
Mm-hmm.
The negativity of the teacher obviously is concerning, no matter what is going on with the parent. To what degree would you, as individual school leaders, feel this is a top priority? You've got to somehow or another try to diffuse this before something bad happens, like teacher gets burned out and resigns, or the teacher says or does something that causes all kinds of trouble, or the family leaves. I mean, I can imagine a number of ways this could go bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would lead, because it's my personality and style, with a lighthearted, the walls are thin. Here's what I heard. I could not hear it. Can you tell me more? And after hearing more, I would like to weave in what we talk to the kids in the classroom about and the playground. Is it safe? Is it respectful? And is it appropriate for time, place, and audience?
Mm-hmm.
And those words are questionable they're not respectful. And I would question whether that's the appropriate space and the appropriate audience. So then the question is, what is your goal? Are you venting? Let's find ways, let's find appropriate places to vent and appropriate ways to vent. Or is it more? Are you looking for change? And if you're looking for change, here's what those conversations and what that path looks like. Because the path to change is probably going to go through administration. So then that's the conversation that gets you closer to your goal.
Mhm.
And can I just point out one thing? If you read the whole thing, the staff member starts off with the child and then immediately switches to the parent and makes her whole, judgment about the whole family. And now the child is not part of this anymore by the end of it.
Mhm.
Right? So what is the exact problem? Is it the child? Is it the family? Is it all together? Is one energy feeding off the other? Like maybe that father, did something to upset her and now she's taking it out on the child like that. I think that's where we need to also look.
Great points. Great points.
Or it could be triggering other things. It could be triggering a conversation with her brother
That's right.
who does the same thing. And she's just, seeing it in that light for just that minute. And
Exactly.
then, it can untease itself easily. There's so many options.
That's right. And I think the bottom line is we have a teacher who's stressed and who needs support. And you would know best, based on the dynamics at your school, how you might address this and what support that teacher might need. And talking directly to that individual and offering support, offering the listening ear, and then offering strategies to help the employee know that this behavior is not in line with our school culture and the values that we all hold dear, and that perhaps this is an anomaly for this teacher. Maybe there is something else going on in their life, but knowing that individual teacher and knowing, is this an isolated incident or is this a pattern of behavior that perhaps needs to be monitored. Also, consider the fact that this air vent is not only can you hear what's going on the other side, it's very possible that they can hear what's going on your side as well. So when you're having those confidential conversations with parents and with teachers, you might consider having some kind of barrier installed or having that air vent boarded up, because or change the location of your office, because there are many conversations that you have as an administrator with your admin team, counseling staff. You might have to have a very difficult conversation with a parent, and you want to be sure that your office isn't inadvertently sharing that information out with other audiences as well. Tim, anything else that you'd like to say before we look at our next dilemma?
No, I think that this one's fairly self-evident for people. Let's move on to the next one.
All right. Funding. Last year, you received a state workforce commission grant for $147,000 to subsidize tuition for students at your school. As part of the grant requirements, you are required to submit monthly reconciliation reports to the state. You delegated this task to one of the other administrators on your team, and you have assumed that they were sending the reports in on time. You are 6 months into the grant award. You just got off the phone with the state auditor, who has informed you that they have not received any reports from your school yet. And if the reports are not received by this Friday, today is Wednesday, your school grant will be revoked. What do you do?
Take a deep breath. You definitely, I take a whole bunch of deep breaths. Take a whole bunch of deep breaths.
Focus, recenter, get some oxygen going to the brain. Absolutely.
And then what I try to do when things are immediate and feel very overwhelming is try and take my focus off the big overwhelming and bring it in to what can I do now?
Mhm.
This is what needs to happen. This is now. What are the pieces I need to get in place? I can deal with, I might run through real quick. Okay, obviously we need to set up a system of checking. Be CC'd on the turning it in email, whatever it is. So I might run through that real quick and jot that down. But then I'm going to redirect all of the energy from frustration and all the rest of it to what needs to happen now and what resources do I have to make that happen, and leave the luxury of frustration and, venting before I deal with this on a bigger scale to later.
Thank you, Lisa.
I definitely had staff members who showed themselves in smaller projects that they would need someone to check on them. Let's put it like that, right? And so for something like this, again, proactively, you want to have a weekly meeting where we're talking and we're going through, what steps you've done and what have you submitted. But reactively, I would reach out to the state auditor. First, I would talk to the person, find out what's going on, but then I would reach out to the state auditor and, explain as best I can how we're very, very sorry that, we haven't been doing what we're supposed to be doing on our end, or whatever the situation is, make it, really sound really good on our side, but then also ask for maybe an extension. We could possibly have an extension to get this done. And then those check-ins and those blind CCs on the email, Lisa, for sure.
Great idea. Anyone else? Something very similar happened to me. It wasn't this amount of money, but it was something very similar. And when I went to the person on my team, they said, "Oh, yeah, I've got everything done. I just didn't know where I was supposed to send them." So in that case, it was a real quick fix, thankfully. But, taking a deep breath is really important, and making sure that we're in a good headspace when we go have that conversation with our colleague, and that we are there in the immediate to support and get the task done. And then, of course, setting up those checks and balances for the future. All right, here's another one. Students, holiday cheer is in the air, and the students, teachers, and parents are looking forward to the upcoming break. You just sat down at your desk to open one of the many gifts on your desk when Mrs. Johnson comes through your office door leading her 4-year-old son by the hand. She explains that Aaron is upset because one of his classmates told him that there is no Santa and that parents leave presents under the tree. Mrs. Johnson wants you to explain that Aaron's friend doesn't know what he's talking about and that Santa is real. What do you do? Yes, Rupali.
Yeah, I would say that, children, we have this happening pretty much every holiday season, especially between the older students and younger students, because it's a mixed age group, and families come from different cultural backgrounds. And so, what has worked for us is to engage the child in a conversation. And instead of giving a yes or no answer, we often use the peace table, the peace rose lesson to say, what do you think? And what happens at your house? Well, how do you celebrate? And engaging the child in a conversation so that they can come to their own understanding, or can feel more comfortable about how Christmas is celebrated at their house, or any festival for that matter. We had a student who who's Jewish, and some of the other students had said something, and irrespective of what religion or what uh, element it is of a religious activity, that we can just talk to the student and the parent and help them come up with what works for their family. And then we say every family is different. We respect what others have also said, but we don't take sides. We don't say one way or the other. We'll respect and honor what you do at your house. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Anyone else have an idea of how you might handle this, or maybe how you have handled this at your school? I know for us, December was always a month of many holidays. So we would talk about holidays around the world, holidays of many religions, and we would always preemptively emphasize that everyone has different ideas and celebrations and ways they practice different holidays, and that everybody's ideas are okay. And that we respect one another and that we embrace our friends' similarities and differences, because that's what makes us all unique. Um, And I love the idea of having the peace table and being, having that respectful conversation between children, and taking the time to really help each child explain their perspective and where they're coming from.
And can I just add to this
Yes, of course.
in this context where Mrs. Johnson wants us to explain to Aaron that Aaron's friend doesn't know, I would just probably say that um, Aaron has, like you said, different cultures. Maybe they don't have Santa coming to their house, so he doesn't know who Santa is, and just leave it at that. Because at 4 years of age, I think that's kind of a simple explanation might work. That yes, Santa comes to your house. Your mommy just told you that, but Santa doesn't go to Aaron's house or whatever his friend's name is, right? And just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would talk to the parents separately.
Yes.
And I would, I would explain. I mean, it could be anything. His friend could have an 11-year-old cousin or
Right.
sibling. So we have to be really cognizant of not lying and not losing our trustworthiness as a whole, and walking that very careful line of letting them experience the magic they have, that is their family tradition and their family peace and their belief, without villainizing somebody else or making it seem like they've done wrong. Because if you've got an older 11-year-old who you trust, who tells you Santa doesn't come, I mean, then they're both in, this is what I believe because I've heard from somebody I trust.
Yes.
And you want I would want to walk that very carefully so I don't lose their trust, and so they don't lose faith in the people that they're turning to in their families.
That's right. Thank you, Lisa. I see Soraya in the chat says, I always talk to the teachers about these similar event, and said, if a child just asks, just say, this question is for your parents. We just listen to children and name the holidays as winter break, harvest season, spring break, etc. Sonia says, I rip to what Rupali said, and I would also have a similar conversation with the older child as well. I meant I agree with Rupali. Thank you, Sonia. And Soraya said the same way, God, religion, places of worship, etc. After listening, always said, thanks for sharing. This is for your parents. Yeah, these are hard ones. And even the tooth fairy can be, those it can be a heartbreak for a child to hear that there's not a tooth fairy. And I've had crying children in my office over the tooth fairy, definitely. All right. Sometimes we might interact with parents. This past weekend, you held your biggest fundraiser of the year. Some of the silent auction items included class artwork that was created by students in each class. The parent on the phone is distraught because they lost the bid on the class item and they had promised their child that they were going to spend any amount to be sure that the artwork would hang on their wall in their house. The parent is calling to find out if you could call the winning bidder to let them know the situation and ask if they would mind selling the item to this parent instead. What do you do?
Has the parent already tried to reach out to the winning bidder, or they're not aware who the winning bidder is? Has that conversation happened already between those two?
That's a very good question. Maybe, maybe they have, maybe they haven't. What would you do depending on those nuances?
I think that would be my first suggestion, that they
Yeah,
reach to the individual themselves, and then if they can't come to an understanding, I, try to intervene. And
yeah. Soraya suggests maybe making a copy of the artwork, maybe making a photograph and making a blow up of the artwork. And Nandita said maybe ask both parents to come in for a chat.
It's a great time to introduce the concept of original arts of work and copies and prints.
There you go. Absolutely. Sometimes you might even ask if you have a parent teacher organization, it could be that they coordinated the event. You might ask the president of your PTO what they think and get some other ideas. It could also be that you say to the parent, I'm so sorry. I know that must be disappointing. And all sales are final. Um, any other ideas? All right. Community members. Neighbors in your area have been emailing you concerns about traffic and parking around your school at pickup and dismissal. This past weekend, you had a fall festival, and one of your neighbors emailed you to let you know that their mailbox was knocked down by one of your parents' reckless driving, and they're demanding that you pay for the damage. They claim they have video footage of the incident and are going to call the police next. What do you do?
I'll go, and I'm not sure I'd advise this to anyone because I realize it's a slippery slope. We have a neighbor at school who did not want us here. She did not want us next door. And then she had tragically had her teenage son pass.
Oh,
And for a while, hearing children's laughter was painful for her.
yeah.
We ended up building the fence that she asked us to build between the two properties. And I grappled with it because the death of her son isn't what tipped the scale, but it was already tipped. But I grappled with it because she also could have built the fence and we are allowed to be here, et cetera, et cetera. However, peace of mind won out and the relationship won out. I think I would replace the mailbox. to keep things more neighborly. But, you know, I also realize confrontation is not my comfort zone. Like I can stand my ground, but I don't like that air of tension. And if I can avoid that tension with a neighbor for, I don't know how much it costs to replace a mailbox, but it's less than the fence we built, you know, I think I would do that.
Thanks, Lisa.
So I'll add to that. Whenever there's a complaint like that, I like to also reach out to my lawyer if they really will do a police complaint, because it's important to protect the school, and also inform the general insurance company that there is a potential of a claim coming, so that they are aware. If nothing comes of it, the insurance company will also not follow up afterwards. But if they do pursue the police complaint, then there's a procedure. And so it's important to have somebody on your side that understands the situation. I think when it comes to neighbors, you're part of the community, and my goal personally is to welcome neighbors to come see the school. So hopefully these relationships are established beforehand. We have a lot of events at our school, and we invite the neighbors to come for these events. And there's always some kind of take home item for them, so that they leave with a memorable item, so that they know that we are here in the neighborhood. The other thing is, if it does happen that a parent has caused damage, it's important to say, we'll work with you. Let's hear what you have to say. You have the video footage. Let's take a look at it together. Give yourself time to process. Buy time. I like to take time to ask questions, and I typically ask 5 questions to get clarification. And during those questions, perhaps even the neighbor might calm down. It's like counting to 5 or 10 with the children. And if it's genuinely a parent who's caused it, yes, I would go ahead, pay for it, resolve it, and then talk to the parent separately. Also, perhaps add a note in the newsletter, the weekly newsletter, that here are our procedures, please be mindful, and so on and so forth. But yeah, these are such realistic scenarios. Thank you for sharing them, Lindsay.
My pleasure, Rupali. And I love the idea of inviting your neighborhood in. My husband was a school principal, and he had a very difficult neighbor, and he finally invited her to the school to have tea with him. And she begrudgingly came over, and they became good friends over the years. So taking the time, he would go over and knock on her door, and check in with her on a weekly basis, just to say hello, until she finally agreed to come and have tea. And then he toured her through the campus and things. But taking the time to build those relationships. One of the things we did at Garden Oaks was we made sure that all of our neighbors would get a calendar, our annual calendar, that showed all the upcoming events, so they could see in advance when we were having Fall Festival and our Grandparents' Day, so that they would know to expect lots of extra traffic on those days. So just spending a little time with your neighbors can go a long way. We also adopted the Esplanade in our neighborhood, and so our middle schoolers would go out and pick up the trash and keep the bushes and things trimmed. And we were able to put a little sign up that said, this area is maintained by Garden Oaks. and just reminded the neighborhood too that we were trying to be good neighbors. So here's our last case study. I know our time is coming to an end. This is a budgeting case study. You just learned that one of your former families has named your school as the first recipient of their Family Foundation grant. They're calling to set up a meeting to discuss the grant award that they plan to give your school and would like to know how soon can you meet? What do you do?
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and check the calendar.
That's right. Take a deep breath and start celebrating. Start writing down that list. Thank your lucky stars and celebrate. This actually happened to me. So it can happen. This was at Garden Oaks, one of our families who had attended the school years even before I had been the principal at Garden Oaks, called out of the blue and had exactly this offer. They had a family foundation grant and wanted to give money to the school. So, yay, it can happen. It can happen to you. You just never know. So, you just never know when that fun surprise will be waiting for you around the corner. So, please, thank you. Number one, thank you all for being here today and participating in our discussions. Just remember that we are here to help. And I don't know what happened on this last slide, but I'll type my email in the chat. Tim Selden at Montessori Foundation is always willing to talk to you, support you, be available for a conversation. And I'm at Sarasota University, and if there's anything we can do to help you with staff development or training or meeting your educational dreams, I'd love to talk with you. So, Tim, anything else before we go today? Thanks, everyone.
No, thanks, everyone. Next week, we're going to be having actually on both Tuesday and Thursday a major conversation about a topic that isn't fun, but is important. And it's basically, what do you do when you get the Dear John letter from the parent saying, let's say in June, July, August, December, I'm going to another school with my kid. And thanks very much for all the fish. And you're wondering, well, what do I do about this contract I got with these people? So we're going to look at the whole issue of how do you minimize the chance that this will happen? What do you do if it does happen? I think you'll find that to be a very interesting conversation. Again, all of you who are registered, you will get a link to the recording. Lindsay, I believe the slides are in a presentation. I'll turn them into a PDF and send them to Christy. Christy will send you all the link to this probably later today or tomorrow. Thanks so much for signing up for the Independent School Leaders Forum and being part of this conversation.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
See you
Take
next
care.
week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.